Yo, what's up guys, DKP here, and today I want to talk about my decklist that I played at the World Championship, my lineup, and also how to translate my decklist to the core constructed so you can play it at your set championship. The deck profile was also part of a celebration stream which I hosted on my Discord channel. It was like about 7 to 8 hours long, and I invited Frank Carson, Edmund Chu, Kurt Spies, and Jonathan Lamb, and we all talked about how to improve in Lorcana. If you want to watch the VOD of that stream, just join my Metafy through the link down below, and then you get access to the Discord and you can watch all the content I provide in my Discord. Enjoy the video, guys. To bring 3 decks, right? That means you also need to bring all colors, so you were kind of restricted in what you can actually bring. We saw that like only Scott brought a blue steel, there was no red steel, no red green. Most of the decks were something with red blue, and even if they were not, they were still the same concept with like green blue items. Like you were really restricted in what you could bring, and there were like probably only 4 really viable lineups. And again, for me, it was this lineup because I didn't want to run the normal Amber Steel Green Purple lineup because I thought it was the thing that everybody tests the most against. I just tried something special. So for me, the Shark deck was always safe if I play Ruby Sapphire because it is a deck that is really strong on the draw, really good against aggro, really good to stabilize. It is really consistent, and it just has... I knew every single play of that deck, and that was like my advantage. I would say also kind of an edge over like other people who decide to run this deck, like my teammates. They didn't even play Shark that much. Like most of them started really playing it during the bootcamp, while I had thousands of hours, or like over 1,000 hours, but hundreds of hours on this deck over multiple sets. I knew every single ink decision, I knew every single pick of vision, I knew every single crucial point when I need to push or when I need to play defensive of this deck. So that's why I felt really confident in just bringing it, because there was not a single matchup that I haven't played. Like even green blue items, which sounds really niche, I played on Lorcanito like 20 times or so, because there was a time where people played a lot and I played a ton against it, and of course I lost against it quite often because it's just the deck to beat Ruby Sapphire. I knew how to win against it or give me the best chance, and on top of that I play Hideaway for the workshops and I play Brawl for the Oswalds. So I also knew, okay, most of the deck is just solid. I just don't need to touch it. And the only flex spots were like the Unnings, which I changed the carpet bag for the Hades, because if you play against items, the Hades is really bad, and this one is good against the Shark build and the items, so it's a really good replacement over the Hades. And the Hades I mainly played for the opponent Sharks, so I was like, I'm fine with that. Another question was Sisu. Do I really want to play Sisu? Because the first thought was I just bench Diablo deck. I just show you my purple steel for that. I bench Diablo decks and then I don't need to play Sisu. But in this last iteration, I just decided to bench Steel. So I was like, I still need Sisu to have a chance to steal a game from Diablo decks. And the same was with Brawl. I knew already I want to play Hideaways. I started with 4 actually, and 4 or 3. And then I was like, doing testing with 2, because I tested 2 at home first. I always drew the Hideaway when I needed it at 2. And Kurt was also convinced of 2. So I was like, yeah, I will just play 2 to save space for more tech cards like Brawl. Which in hindsight, I should have played 3. That was a bad decision, and I should have played Goof 100%. Because now my lineup had 1 weakness, or rather my Ruby Sapphire had 1 weakness, and that was green purple tempo, not Diablo. And now I was like, I faced Federico twice and he played the green purple Diablo, and I'm like, tempo, sorry. I was like, damn, if he gets me with that deck, it can get rough. So yeah, I regretted playing this over the Goof. And also outside of the utility of against aggro, Goof just gains your law. That's so massive in this deck. Like I keep underestimating that fact, even though it was already so good in Melbourne. When you're at 14, 16, you know, you have Goof and Pirate's Life in your deck, just know you will win at some point. So in hindsight, I should have just kicked the Sisu and the Brawl to add at least 3 Goof, and then probably add 1 more Hideaway here. So 3 Hideaways. 4 was probably too much. I would be only at 10 Unnings, and then my deck would be like a Chef's Kiss. Like I would just rock it again. Yeah, I would be really happy with that. The Broom decks against Ruby Sapphire, against items, is pretty much, I wouldn't say free, but it is really good because they cannot stop your lore gain. And then what happens a lot is, yeah, you saw it in the finals, right? You just, even though if I didn't happen to draw the goats or the Yensid combo, just at some point you would just draw into it. I could have also developed my library much earlier instead of goat, and then force them to give me draws or just gain more lore from the library, because Ed wasn't able to answer my bodies plus the library, so I could have just developed that earlier instead of goats. It's just running away with the game. At some point we tested it on the play, on the draw against items lost every single time. Only when Purple Steel bricked, meaning no 1-drop, and then the hand was slow, really slow afterwards. That's the only time we lost against items with brooms. But that's when we tested it. I didn't even test it, I just watched because I needed to test my yellow-green. Justin played brooms against the other teammates and he won every single time. So I was really convinced that the brooms wins against items. Against Shark, it's really play draw dependent and how good Shark draws. Like if it's on the draw, I never won against brooms, even for my best hands, because you know he always had Yensid on 2. Brooms turn 1, turn 2 Yensid, I know every single game, so I couldn't do much against that. And on the play, if I just establish my stuff earlier, that deck doesn't run Zeus, so my Shark is quite safe. And then Pirate's Life dragged them down and I gained the control. That was quite easy to win afterward. I accepted that the match was a bit play draw dependent, but also if they don't know what to do exactly against brooms, I can still win. So I gained an advantage from running these kind of decks that are not really popular, right? Like this deck and this deck. People don't have the reps against it. So even though it's quite simple, quite straightforward, the decks, sometimes I can gain like 1 or 2% win rate because they just ink wrong or just play wrong against it, so that helps. And my lineup's not that clear, and of course I know every single line of this deck, so that alone gave me an edge. And overall I can say in the end was really depending on 2 assumptions or 3 assumptions. First, the hyper aggro needed to win against everything on the play for almost 100%, which in this version it did. When you didn't brick, like I won against everything, so we tested that, so that worked. Test like 30 matches or so, and then we just saw, okay, it didn't lose 1 time if I don't brick, and I only brick once, that's when I lost. But else, by the way, I brick by drawing 7 3-costs. I'm like, what? With full mulligan. So I had like 6 3-costs and 1 2-cost like Ursula, and I full mulligan and I draw 7 3-costs. I'm like, well, okay, I just lose. And yeah, that's the first assumption, always win on the play. Second assumption is I'm winning the mirror. On the draw, on the play, doesn't matter, I'm winning the mirror. I have the edge in the mirror, which I feel like it was like that because we played a ton of mirror and I won almost all of them, like the average I won. So I felt really confident in that. And then that this deck beats Diablo decks all the time, and that also worked flawlessly. This broom and the cannons and the genie and the strength were enough to just kill all evasives, while you just having the bigger bodies than they have normally, and then you can just quest out, or maybe you can wait a bit and then get rid of their stuff and then quest out, like your goats, your cobras, like they're all so big, your fox, your mims, your crab. Like Diablo decks can't do much against it, so that was really nice. And here I show you where I started. So I started here. That was the first theory. So again, Ruby Cyber was safe. This is the first iteration that Luminator, his name is Robert, he is the master of publicity aggro in my opinion. And yeah, he developed this deck for me. I'm running Maleficence, oh, Pinocchio's missing. So Pinocchio, Maleficent, Dog, Cobra, of course. Yeah, all the burn. But the special thing here is you can see the Mulan and the Simba, because we ran 20 earnings, or yeah, roughly 20 earnings. This build is not the exact list. So we started out of this. 4 Maleficents, 4 Pinocchio, 4 Dogs, 4 Desperate Plan. And the theory was just, okay, you are just starting. When we played like 26 1-drops or so, we played every single 1-drop that were good. And these kind of cards can discard these. So if you brick on the Dogs and Desperate Plans, you can use this to cycle, because then you discard that card and get a fresh card. And you can continue to do so, especially if you don't start with Dog or Desperate Plan in your hand. You can use the cycle cards to get there. The cycle 1-drops we also played like Follower and so on in Bloom. So we start with hyper aggro, a bunch of 1-drops, just turn sideways, just cycle to the draws and then burn the opponent out, which worked okay. It was good enough against everything on the play. Not everything, but it was good enough, I would say, against Ruby Sapphire. So my first target was literally I tried to beat Ruby Sapphire. So I built my deck to beat Mirror, I built this to beat Mirror, and then I only need to find a green-yellow deck that beats Ruby Sapphire, right? And that was pretty much green-yellow discard, which everyone knows. My personal experience was also from tournaments that I cannot win consistently against that deck. Most of the time I lost. I was like, yeah, I have my lineup, that works. I just target Ruby. Everybody needs to play Ruby, easy win. But then I played the green-yellow discard and I just kept losing. I either bricked straight on and I just lost, or I wiped the entire hand of my opponent and then he still inks every single turn. And then I inked every single turn. They inked every single turn, and then Sisu came down, wiped my entire field, a mana afterwards, and then I was like, I can just win, because most of my hands, even if I have 10 cards from Prince John, 7 cards out of 10 were discard cards. My opponent has empty hand, like what does it do? And all my bodies were so small, I need to draw like quickies and key dust to quest out, so it was just not it. I spent way too much time on finding the correct green, yellow and purple steel list and trying to hard counter Ruby Sapphire, and then yeah, just the issue is when you actually lose against your target and the target is out, now you cannot target the other deck. You most likely lose against the other deck because you built your deck so hard to beat the one target. So I didn't want to experience that. Then we went to, yeah, again on Tuesday, 4 AM. On this deck, I played a lot of 2-cost bodyguards first because I wanted to maximize the lady. But they are just bad. And these are so much better because they're just save 2 lore, and if you just top deck back to back to back, any ward character, you just gain 2 lore, gain 2 lore. It's like playing a goat or playing a cobra. You just gain the lore because the decks that you are facing, which is an emerald, amethyst, and ruby sapphire most of the time, they cannot really get rid of them because they all have ward. So you normally, on average, you gain the loss. And yeah, the deck was really good. For constructed, don't play this. It doesn't work. It's so bad on the draw. It's also so bad against steel. Just don't play this. But for constructed in general, I would run this deck for sure. Like if I had to play the next event again, I know there are also a bunch of green purple. I would like just slam this deck in. There's always some flex spots you can do, like the genie amount, the cannon amount. I think 2 is really good in this deck. You can play 3. Like the CCS build, they won because it's the friend of Justin, right? It's Chris. He won the event, and this is the list of Justin. Single card. I kick 1 genie for a 3rd snake because I really like the play where you go turn 4 and sit, quest out, Mother Mim, bouncing back, play him out again, draw another card. Phenomenal turn 4 play, or just in general turn 5, quest with beat or sing strength, bounce beat back, play beat again for 5. So I want to increase that because most people play like 1 or 2 snakes in this deck. I want to play 3 because of that reason. I just like the bounce. Also with like Cobra, especially in this deck with Jens Sid, you draw significant higher amount of cards, so you have more discards, so you can just bounce Cobra back, replay it. And the last tech for me was the library. You don't actually need to play library. You can also play friends for the meta, but I play library because if you just think about it, 50% of my matches will be red-blue technically because I bench either steel or the hyper aggro deck, but never red-blue. I need something for red-blue, and library is just, if you time it right, it's literally like mana plus, but even stronger because you just get cards into your hand. And you can always time it right and yeah, gain a bunch of cards. I didn't play him 4 because it wasn't that great against amethyst decks in particular with foxes and so on, but against ruby sapphire it's good enough, and I also had difficulties to cut anything, so 2 libraries was fine. This is the deck where I wouldn't even try to play everything as a playset like I would do mostly in ruby sapphire, because this deck is different. Like it flows differently than ruby sapphire, and that's why I didn't play like crab at 4, because this deck doesn't really want to trade that much. Only played 3 crabs. I was totally fine with that. Like my first thought after playing like 3 games already was like, okay, I would never play 4 crabs in this deck. Genie is also a really good bomb, right? But this has 8 innings only, and I even thought about kicking Genie completely and just playing libraries instead, so I would be at 6 innings. Super high consistent deck, right? Normally purple steel decks are at 10, 12 higher inning. It was just flowing so good, and another reason why I kicked Genie to 2 was it was clunky with Dog. I had Dog and Genie way too often, or like, I mean, you can play Genie out first and then play a Dog afterwards, but the issue was also sometimes I just had too many innings in my hand, and when I wanted to ink up to 6 to do some plays, or 7 even, so it was weird. That's why I just cut them down, and 2 was still good enough. But you can play 3 if you want to. I think I would never play 4 in this deck. That's too clunky. The main play is still trying to get the instant line, and if not, you still try to be super fast. The main weakness of this deck is of course Steel Song. When they are on the play, on the draw, it's still fine. Sorry, when you're on the play and they're on the draw. But if they start with Cindy into your killing your brooms, it's really rough, so you need to start off these. And this is still okay if they shoot it, but if they shoot this, I know. Don't have so many 2-drops that you actually want to play on 2 that are really good then. I mean, the brooms is decent. It's not, the Mim is depending on the 1-drop, so it's not great. Smee is also not great. So that's the weakness, but else against everything else, this deck is phenomenal, really strong, and I would run this deck 1 by 1 if I go to a tournament next weekend. You need to learn it, of course, but I think this deck here really thrives if you have really solid fundamentals, because I learned it in 1 day. I had 1 day or 1.5 days technically to learn it, and I just watched Justin play, jam games afterwards. That's why you still saw a few misplays on stream that I did, because I didn't even play too fast. I just thought it was the best line already. I didn't know about some other lines. For example, one time I attacked the mana box, the crab gave a +3 challenger, and then I replayed the grab, but I could have just quest and then use all the challenging power on Mim. Attack. I never did that play before, so that's why I didn't do it. Or you can see how I forget the Smee damage, because before that, for building this, I played the hyper aggro purpose here, right? And I didn't play Smee actually, because Smee is in here. I actually played Calhoun because I benched Diablo, so I wanted to beat Steel more consistently, and Calhoun is much better into Steel. So yeah, I was like, I actually never played Smee. In the entire bootcamp, I played Smee for 1 day, so I kept forgetting him. And online on Lorcanito, when I played Smee, it does it automatically, so that's why you see me forgetting Smee all the time. How small of a preparation I had with this deck, but still, it boils down to your fundamentals, like just value trading accordingly and counting or like planning ahead, like how much lore you will have in a few turns. That's why I did the gold plays instead of bouncing gold and so on. I was just like, every single gold is 3 lore basically, because Ed cannot get rid of gold instantly, so that means the gold comes down on the board, it's 1 lore, he will quest at least 1 time, 1 more lore, and then if he leaves the board, 1 more lore, so it's 3 lore. So I just spam my goats, because every single time I spam goats 3 lore, so I already knew I will reach 20 at turn 3 or 4 if I just keep spamming him, so that's why I did it. And yeah, this deck rewards fundamental play quite a lot, and it's really easy to play too. Like if you have the Broomian Sit, you do Broomian Sit. If you don't, you try to go 1-drop into Smee into turn 3, either do like grab, beat, box, depends on what your opponent is doing. Depends on if you have like Diablo, you can use grab plus Diablo. If not, you can use Fox, bounce back a 1-drop or something, and then just trade. Sometimes you can do Pete just to chill around and stop your opponent maybe from discarding or something. And then you can sing Strength next turn. For me, it felt like really smooth, really easy to play. Sometimes, of course, there were difficult choices that I messed up a bit, but the power of the deck just speaks for itself, and the flow of the deck is much easier than this. And this deck, of course, just collect 3 1-drops, turn sideways. And that's also a big reason why I chose this deck, because it just allows me to put my time into this, because I have the edge that I didn't test this deck for 1 second. I only need to build this deck. I don't need to test this deck. I literally just turn sideways. And then I could put all my time into this afterwards. So on Thursday, Friday, I only thought about how to play Brooms the entire day, and that's it. So this lineup also had just a huge advantage in terms of like the skill level that's required. I mean, of course, this is super difficult, but I already spammed it, so this is easy. So if you were in my position, you only need to learn 2 decks, and yeah, that's really great. In this case, I only needed to learn 1 deck and focus all my effort into this, and Justin helped me a lot there.